Hello and welcome back to Right to Choose. I am Dr. Yana Harris, and this is my dear friend, Mrs. Christine Cooper. For those of
Hey.
you, hey girl, for those of you joining us for the first time, our podcast subject area is about the aftermath of our abortion choices. Christine and I have both suffered the loss of a child due to our own hands in abortion. And so the Lord has led us to this place where we are opening the door to talk about it. There are a lot of things related to abortion and abortion healing and abortion in the Black community specifically that aren't being talked about. So here we are today to continue the conversation. So we're hoping you come along for the ride and you continue to ride with us as we deal with a lot of the parts of the aftermath. We're very clear that there will be some parts that you agree with and some parts you do not, and some parts that may be your experience and some parts that may not. So we're opening the door, so let's talk about it. All right, Christine, you ready?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, so tonight we're talking about parenting our living children. Um, I know it's a strange topic to hop into so early in the process, but we are both mothers of living children, and we'll both talk a little bit about how our choice to abort our first children has impacted how we parent our living children. Um, I have two living children. I have Faith, who is 23, and Ryan, who is 16 at the time of this recording. I have three bonus children who are 25 and twins who will be 18 here at the end of the month. And um, parenting over the years has been different. I had my abortion 5 years before my daughter was born. So once I had, once I got pregnant with Faith, I knew I had to have this baby because by then I had had so much, so much turmoil and trauma after my abortion. I dropped so far into depression that was ridiculous. And we'll talk more about that definitely in a later episode about how your mental health is affected by your choice to abort. And when I had Faith, I legitimately had to fight for her life because I was afraid the entire time I was pregnant that this child that I was choosing would be taken from me. And then when she was born, I would go into her room every night and I would stare and watch her chest rise and fall to make sure she was still living, because I was certain that God would take her from me as a punishment for what I had done to my first child. And I was thankful that I was surrounded with a lot of people who helped me in that time. I was in college when I had her. I was a senior in college and I was in a community. We had a very tight knit family of friends who to this day are family, almost 30 years later. And we were able to build relationships. And I know for sure that their presence in my life helped me to parent a child that I was afraid to parent. I was afraid I was not going to be good enough as a mother. Um, I felt foolish for being pregnant again out of wedlock. I was foolish for being in the gospel choir at school pregnant, in the church pregnant again. And so I felt super inadequate to be a mom. And God's sovereignty, I had friends Sharon and Patrick who bought their own car seat and they picked her up all the time. I would sit in the back of the church and cry because she just cried and cried. And I was like, this is punishment. I just know it. She doesn't like me. And I'm being punished. Like I legitimately thought she's never gonna like me. I'm being punished. Her colic is my fault. Like everything is my fault. This is God's way of punishing me. And I lived that way for a very long time, um, and didn't realize for so much time that God had put people in my life to protect her and to bring her through to who she is today and who she's becoming as a mother and a woman, a wife. And I've even struggled as an adult, like a real adult, a whole grown adult with a mortgage. Um, I've struggled with the parts of feeling like I have failed my children, um, because even in my ministry, I commit a considerable amount of time to ministry that revolves around my first child. Um, and so I've had to struggle in the places of balancing out ministry for that's related to the first child, and then activities and stuff for the second and the third child. I've got an athlete. My son is a student athlete who plays sports year round, cross country, basketball, track, all year. So I struggle. Actually, had a woman say something to me last week because I'm going to an event related to abortion healing. And she says, I said I couldn't make it to the next track meet. And she said, "Oh, what are you going to be doing?" And I said, I was going to a fundraiser for the organization where I volunteer. It's a pregnancy resource center. And she says, "Oh, so that's taking the place of your son?"
Come, run it back. Wow.
It shook me. And I didn't realize how much it shook me till about a couple days later. And I was like, what? And my response in the moment was polite. And it was actually, it's not taking the place, but it's for my first son. Um, and I kind of just laid it right there and left. I'm not quiet about my abortion, but in that moment, standing on the side of the track in pollen filled air, I didn't get into it with her. And she's a lovely person. She meant nothing by it. But in that moment, I remember going, "What'd you say?" And but having to even battle in my mind the parts where I, in my ministry choices, I have to set the boundary of how will I parent my living children while still honoring the legacy of my son. And that many times has been a challenge, even knowing I'm called to this work, knowing I'm called to minister to women who are post abortive. But at the same time, it's caused me to be able to have conversations with my children that most people don't have with their kids. I've Children are both very well aware of my dumb choices, my promiscuity. They're very well aware of my choices for my choice to have an abortion. They're very aware of where I sit with it, what my ministry is and does. They've volunteered. They've heard my abortion story probably more times than they'd like to hear it. So it set me in a different place in my relationship with them in that way. Um, and it doesn't necessarily keep them from making the same decision, but it does put them in a place where understanding. But I think that sometimes having chosen abortion causes us to parent our living children quite differently. And I know, Christine, you have Morgan, and Morgan is an elementary school age child. So
Yes.
what's the span of time from your abortion to Morgan's age now? When she was born, like how far is that?
Yeah, it was 11 years had passed.
Okay. Okay. And you had not been through any sort of healing program or anything before Morgan. Okay.
No.
So how was parenting from Morgan's birth or conception probably on up through now, even because I know your circumstances are a lot different than they were when you had her.
Yeah. So, because in my abortion experience and history, I did not want to have an abortion, and I felt as though I wasn't able to use my voice to fight for the life of my child. That once I became pregnant with Morgan, I refused to um, allow anyone else's opinion on what I should do with her life, even take a space in my mind. And there were people that were, supportive of my pregnancy and my decision to keep her, but there were people that were very intentional, should I say, to let me know I could choose differently. And because I had already chosen abortion, it would definitely was not an option. It was nothing I was going to go through it, especially because at this point I was an adult. I didn't have my mom or my dad there to, even if they wanted to make that choice for me. And so I went into the pregnancy with a very protective mindset of Morgan before I even knew, what sex she was. Um, Throughout my pregnancy, I think that protectiveness grew even more because I was able to experience her growing. I was able to, I paid very close attention to how my body was changing because it was something that I did not experience 11 years before. So I really cherished my pregnancy, um, and everything that was happening in my body with her. As she grew and God revealed to me what to name her, I began to talk to her. I began, praying over her and all these different things to, ask God to protect and cover her. Now, when it was time to give birth to this child, Iyanla, I did not want to. I was not the person that was like, get this baby out of me. Like, that's not my situation. I wanted her to stay in me as long as she could because I knew where she was. It's like I knew she was safe. I knew that everything she needed I could provide. And it made me crazy. But it 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 was the way, I guess, that the that our relationship really began, as far as my overprotectiveness, if you want to call it that. So once she was born, there were people in my life that I felt were very supportive of me as a mother and her as my child, that God revealed to me is this is my circle of people that I can trust, to help me raise her, take care of her, my little village. Even with my village, it was hard to let go. So as far as how I parent Morgan, I wouldn't say it was hard to let go. It was hard for me to allow other people to care for her because I felt as though because of the abortion, I had to keep my hand on her at all times because what if somebody doesn't, you know, care for her how I would, or what if they don't take into consideration her physical condition? Because another thing, when Morgan was born, I almost lost Morgan. So now it's like I feel like our whole situation is a whole trauma bond in itself. But I almost lost Morgan when she was born. She wasn't breathing for 3 minutes. She was stuck in, what they call it? The cavity, whatever it's called. She was
The
stuck in that.
canal, the birth canal.
I tell you, this been my first and last pregnancy, but she was stuck in this canal, y'all. And so she wasn't breathing for 3.5 minutes. And so, to save her life, it was some extreme measures that was taken, which I appreciate. But even those measures and knowing that she could not be here today, I think added to how I mothered her and cared for her. How I was unable to really release her even to the people that I should have trusted with her.
Mm.
We co-slept every single year of her life, even up until this point of until I got married. So I've just recently gotten married. It's only been 8 months. every single day of my life was Morgan and I. My priority was Morgan. Everything I did revolved around how's this going to affect Morgan, as it should as a mother. But once I came into a relationship with a man that is now my husband, I have realized that that bond that her and I have is not that it should be easily broken, but it has been difficult for me to reprioritize her in our family unit because she was the top priority. And now my husband is the top priority. And that transition phase in our marriage has not been easy, to the point where I'm literally seeking counseling currently to help me go through a progressive plan or something, on how to make this functional so that my husband feels as important as he should, but also so that my daughter doesn't feel as though I'm completely, taking her stability away of what she's known all
Right.
6, now almost 7 years of her life.
Right.
So, I mean,
Like those things were born out of a fear. Do you feel like just your overprotectiveness? Did you feel like it was like, what do you feel like the fear was?
so I'm like the super mom, the fear was I struggle also with discipline. So when it comes to Morgan, so my main struggle, just to let y'all in, my main struggle with the abortion from the beginning was that I did not give my son a chance to live, to become anyone, to explore life, to, have a calling. I didn't give him an opportunity. And so when Morgan was born and now she's my living child, I have struggled with allowing her to explore life. The fear is she'll explore it to the point that I'll lose her somewhere. Kind of similar to what you were saying. So like even when she goes to the park, I struggle with her running too fast, even though kids run too fast, because I'm afraid if she falls, like that's it. If she falls, it's not just a simple she gonna skin her boo-boo, y'all, or skin her knee, or she gonna cry, she might have a little blood come out. No, it's like to the extreme. If she fall, she gonna be taken out of here, something crazy like that. Or, you know, struggle with, taking her into large crowds because, you know, what if I lose her? I have to keep her in a space to where I can always have eyes on her. I can always hold her, you know, because what if I look away from 1 second and I lose her? And so just my parenting style in general, I think has been birthed in this fear that it took so much to have her. It took so long, I would say, from that abortion to have her, because the truth is those whole 11 years before she came into my life, it was a hole in my heart for motherhood, because I'm just feeling like every day I should have a child here with me, not just in heaven. And so when that opportunity became a reality, it was hard for me to really allow her to live her life, even at 6 years old.
Right.
So I recognize that, yeah, there's a bit of dysfunction in that. We need to bring this back to a healthy place.
Right.
Not just for me, but for her as well, because, you know, she has this bond with me that's just as close, like I said, as I have with her. And I just want her to experience life. So that's the situation I have. Discipline, I struggle with that because I want her to always view me in the light of the good cop, I guess. It's like, I don't want her to be mad with me. I don't want her to be upset with me, and even when it comes to like the things she should eat or whatever, like she want to have a donut for breakfast. That's not breakfast. But she's like, but please, mommy. And I'm just like, okay, sure. You have a donut for breakfast? Though I know nobody should be eating that. I should grown people should be eating. But I struggle with the telling her no. I struggle with telling her no. So just trying to prepare her for what's really going to happen in life. Like I have to get to the place where I can prepare her as best as she needs to be prepared for this
Right.
world. And that comes with no's. That
Mm,
comes with a few no's.
a lot of
And a lot of no's, right. A lot of no's. And
Mhm.
so I would say that's really been my my struggle with parenting. And then because I am struggle with allowing my husband to parent.
Mm.
Um, because I'm so used to doing it and I'm so used to having that relationship with her 100% that I don't always allow him the reins and the ability to help me, to meet me in parenting. And so
Right. Mhm.
it's just a lot.
I think what's so powerful about what you're experiencing right now is the acknowledgement that there needs to be a shift.
Mhm.
Huge. Many of us will operate in dysfunction and act like everything's fine. There's a
Right.
truck behind you, and you're like, everything's fine, nothing's wrong, everything's but like, girl, you don't see that car flying past your house. You
Right.
so being able to acknowledge that there's an issue, to me is at the root of much of what we're even talking about. Like to acknowledge that there is a situation, an issue that needs to be handled and dealt with, um, is major. And for you to even be able to trace it back and say, this is because I did not choose to protect this child. Now I need to overcompensate and overprotect this child. And
Yeah.
that is the reality. That is um, truly, I hate to say, normal. And a lot of times, women who are post abortive will experience all of these post abortion symptoms and not feel normal, feel very alone in the over mothering, the smothering, the overprotectiveness. Um, will feel like there's something wrong. I worked with a woman in abortion healing who said she's like, well, I'm completely opposite. I'm completely detached from my children and I don't really want anything to do with them. And I
Mhm.
was a different extreme where she had no connection because she didn't want to be connected with them because she didn't choose to connect with the child she aborted. And she had to work through that. She had to walk through the healing herself, allowing God to heal her through his word and through conversation and study so that she could then position herself in a place to be a better mother. And
Mm.
like it wasn't that she was absent, she was present. And to the outside eye, she looked like they had a perfect life. They had
Mm.
several kids and a dog and a husband. It was great. They lived in the suburbs, but you wouldn't know how excuse me, how much damage had been done because of her abortion because she was wearing the suburban mask. She was wearing the perfect mom mask, the soccer mom, the Girl Scout mom, and everything was cool. But, in her space of confession of being able to say, I don't even like these kids and be sincere, like I don't like them. And I was like, wow. And it's so beautiful to watch her now to be a parent and to be a mother and very present and in love with her children, her living children, and to be able to acknowledge her son in heaven, and to even be able to share that experience with her children so that they, too can understand a little more about the choices that we make, um, and the impact. Part of our goal in this series on this podcast, Right to Choose, is that we explore the different shrapnel and aftermath of the choice. And here we are, Morgan 6, Ryan 16, Faith is 23, in dealing with the shrapnel of parenting after an abortion. um, and how it manifests so differently. I alluded to manifesting in through mental health issues and the different diagnoses that come because of unresolved trauma, undealt with trauma. I always tell people I can trace a line from before my abortion that got me to it, and then the effects after my abortion, like how those two places meet. The trauma of childhood trauma that comes here and makes you feel whatever kind of way. Early sexualization, that's a whole different podcast about how our lives are impacted by being sexualized early, whether it's they say you can't consent under a certain age, so period. Having early sexual experiences and being victimized, those things lead us to these places where here we are dealing with our choices. Um,
Mm.
and now, even I appreciate Christine saying, okay, well, Morgan's going to have to deal with no in life. Like, I don't know if anybody has lived a life where no has never been spoken outside of the home. I just like, we've been, you've applied for jobs you don't get. You've, asked for grades you didn't get. You can just simply go to the store and look for a pair of shoes and they not be there. And those things present themselves in different ways. Injuries happen. And even in different competitive environments, it makes for a different kind of young person when they've worked in, been on teams, how different that is, and being in sports or activities. All these different things change the dynamic of who a person is and becomes, but it really does start with how we parent our children and how we're able to move forward from our trauma because, and yes, abortion is trauma, um,
Yes.
come from a trauma, but it is 100% is trauma. And because we fail many times to move on from our abortion trauma, move forward, and not even necessarily move on, but move forward from it. If you can't move forward, then you end up holding your kid hostage. No, you can't go play in the park because I no, you that slide is too high. You're like for real, like no, you cannot go on the monkey bars because what if your hand slips? And that's real, like
Yeah.
super real. So now with your being married, and
Yeah.
because you said this is 8 months, wow, already.
Already.
Lord, when did that happen? So now
Yeah, it's flown by.
it has. So as a parent, do you feel like you will be able to move forward in a space, not just to release Morgan to the world per se, but to release her to your husband?
Yeah. Um, so what I have been very intentional on is when she would ask me to do things, I will tell her to go ask him. Or when she will, just anything that she positions for mommy to do or be a part of, I am very intentional to include him into that space, or even like I said, just suggest that he take care of it altogether. Um, especially, when it comes to discipline and, not physical discipline, because that's not
Mhm.
really how our household runs, but, just discipline or correction in general,
Mhm.
allowing him to take that lead and
Right.
letting her know, simultaneously that you have two parents. Like
Right.
you have two parents in this household now.
Mhm.
And this is what that looks like. My husband and I are partners in this. It isn't just you and mommy anymore. So just finding the courage really to be intentional enough to let him in that space, because the truth is that if I was intentional enough to feel as though he was the one to,
Mhm.
marry and allow into her life, then I should be just as intentional to let him father her. And I
Mhm.
say let him father her because it isn't something that he isn't trying to do. So, and I think that's just gonna, come with time.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. It's very different, even just from the aspect of moving from single parent to married parent, where you're co-parenting and blended family situations. And there's so many things on the table, so many variables when it comes to building these relationships, to helping our children. And the blessing of it is that, um, helping Morgan to move in these spaces will also help her to see husband, wife, man, woman relationships differently and be able to see it in a positive light. And how the things I always tell people, what's caught is better than what's taught. So what
Mm,
catch is that mommy respects Corey, or Mr. Corey, or dad, however she calls him. Mommy respects him in a space where she yields the decision of what have you, or mommy and him collaborate. And she'll see it, and she'll start to bring it up, and you'll know, you'll be like, she just, you know, okay, can I ask? Like, she'll start to lead that conversation. And that will be such a beautiful thing, because while it's work on your end, for sure, it'll start to become smoother, for her.
yeah.
And it will in turn be a beautiful blessing, because you won't have this chokehold on her, like, no, you can't go anywhere, you can't do anything, you can't. And maybe one day she'll be able to spend the night at a friend's house. Like, I know that's like extreme right now, but I'm just
Very. But
see,
we gotta take this in the baby steps. Okay. She
see how
goes
I
to
do.
my house and she goes to my sister's house.
I
So
know,
that's
I knew. That's why I was like, maybe one day when she's 17.
right. That's what she's going. But it's interesting because obviously, he is aware that I've had an abortion. It's not a secret from him. And so we had a conversation probably about 3 or 4 months into our marriage, because once you live with somebody, first of all, it's a whole nother different ballgame. But what what he was able to see, because now he had firsthand experience into Morgan and my relationship, was how I really parented her. And he could see that there were some gaps that needed to be filled in for the betterment of her, emotional health, and my own, and our um health as mother and daughter, the way it should be. So what I found is that he would be trying to tell me, like, how I should do that. Like, he was like, babe, you really got to tell her no. And I was like, not my babe, tell her no, no. And he's like, you really, she really has to understand, these things and those things. And at first I was unable to connect what he was saying, because I was like, no, you are the crazy one. You don't understand this relationship. You don't understand what we have going on right here. But
Mhm.
the truth is that he was coming from an unbiased place, from a place where there was no previous trauma, from a place where he could see clearer than me, because my parenting perspective, of where I lived with her, of course, was completely
Mhm. Mhm.
subjective to my own personal life experiences.
Right.
And so that I think is what really started the process of my eye opening, with her, and how our relationship really is, because somebody was able to see it every day in and day out, and
Right.
really
Right.
show me, like, hey, so I know this is your experience in life with the abortion. You've explained it to me, but I really think that it's playing a role in your parenting as such.
Right. Right.
So- And so I thank God for him, because it's helping me to get to the place where I need to be with her, and also with him.
Mhm. I
um,
understand.
And it's crazy because the truth is that's my number one relationship next to
Mhm.
God, husband.
Right.
And before I would been like, look, we married, bro, but you're gonna have to get in where you fit in with this with me and Morgan, because that's my number one.
I know. I know. I
So
understand. And you have come a long way in that aspect, and definitely because for you to be able to see, but it's appreciate God that you have you trust him.
yes.
Hey, if he'd have pulled that, I hate to say it, if he'd pulled that in month 3 of the relationship,
Gotta be like, you're not the one. You're
you'd have
not the
been
one.
done with Mr. Cooper. It'd have been over, Coop. I mean,
You are not the one.
right. And so even God divine timing of when it would be revealed to you that
Yes.
was necessary. It's just beautiful, and I think it will. I'm sure that it will be a great benefit to Morgan. And the beautiful part as well is that um, it reminds us that there is constant healing from an abortion, that there is always something to deal with. It's different. My sister broke her ankle in high school, and that was a really long time ago. She broke her
Mhm.
ankle in high school, and she can tell when it's going to rain because her ankle will start to feel a little something.
Mhm.
Her ankle has been healed for 30 years, but there's still something that's residue. There's something that's still there that causes the snap,
Mm.
causes the memory reflex to go back to a soft touch space. And when it comes to our abortions, I know that many of us will be like, I'm fine, I'm good, I'm great. And I've been through, this healing class, and I've been through this, and I went to the altar and they lay hands, and it was praise the Lord, I'm done. And I'm not saying that people aren't healed. I'm not saying I'm not healed, but I know for certain that there are parts of my life, parts of my heart that the Lord wants to deal with. And some of those don't get revealed until you're in new spaces in your life. Something
Right.
came up because you got married, something new came up because your child turned a certain age, something new came up when I got grandkids. It was a whole different thing. It was something new came up as I watched my son be an athlete and realized that I'd never see Xavier be an athlete. Like these different pieces come up, and it's different, and it's a part of the process of becoming. It's a part of the process of manifested healing. And sometimes we have to distinguish the difference between a miracle, a miracle and healing. Miracles are instantaneous.
Mhm.
My man, poof pal, he can see. Healing takes time.
Very true.
It's necessary for us. It all starts with acknowledgement. It all starts with acknowledgement. Like you have to acknowledge there's even a need for healing, and acknowledge that there's a need to heal a relationship that you didn't realize was dysfunctional. You
True, because I was like, we're good. What are you talking about? This
Yeah,
is the best mother and daughter relationship you have ever seen.
we are twinning is winning. We are everything. Yeah.
Right. We go everywhere together. We do everything. She is always with me, always with me because she can't be with nobody else. That's why.
That's my best friend. Yeah.
Right. All
Right.
of so
Yeah. Yeah.
thank you for sight.
Ooh,
That's all.
thank you, baby Jesus. It's true. It is so, so, so true. And it's a beautiful thing. And even as we consider tonight how our choices and how um, the shrapnel, I that continues to be a very clear metaphor for me, is the shrapnel of one choice, and how it doesn't just impact you for the rest of your life. Now here it is, it impacts our children, it impacts how we parent it, and in turn, and even we can talk later about how it impacts our marriages. um,
Oh,
how it impacts us and the choices that we make, and sexually, like how it impacts all those areas, and that there's not really a part of our life that's safe from our shrapnel. Some
yeah.
sometimes the shrapnel has buried itself so far in, we thought it was a bone. So, ooh, Jesus. So we get to dig and dive into these things, and we,
And I can't wait.
what you say?
I cannot wait.
Amen. Amen. We get to dig and dive into these things, and we're so thankful. We look forward to just hearing from you. Um, you can actually reach us an email at breakfreeabortionhealing@yahoo.com. You can comment on whatever podcast method you're listening to, whether it's on YouTube, Anchor, Apple, wherever you are, feel free to comment and reach out just to let us know what your thoughts are, and even some topics that you want us to dig into, and let us know how you've been impacted, good or bad. We're here for it. Thank you for joining us on Right to Choose. We'll see you next time.
See y'all. Bye.
Bye.